Ethan Cole had everything: fortune, power, and a name that opened every door in New York. But one rainy night, he lay bleeding in a dark alley, stripped of all that wealth could buy, until a stranger appeared. Her name was Maya Brooks, homeless, barefoot, and surviving on scraps, yet in that moment, she held his life in her trembling hands with a stubborn will to save him. But how could a single act of kindness change both their lives forever? Why did she risk her life for a stranger? How could a man who owned the world fall for a woman who had nothing? And what would happen when the truth about that night came to light? Rain hammered the city like 1,000 angry fists, bouncing off blacktop and pooling in the cracks of broken sidewalks. Ethan Cole hated nights like this. They reminded him of the things money couldn't fix: loneliness, betrayal, the hollow echo inside his penthouse walls. Tonight was supposed to be a celebration. A billion-dollar deal had just closed. But instead of champagne, he'd stormed out of his own party after catching his fiancée whispering intimately with his business rival. He didn't take his limo. He walked. No umbrella. No security detail. Just him and the biting wind, as if punishing himself for being foolish enough to think love could be bought or promised. 3 blocks from the glowing glass towers, the streets turned darker, rougher. Graffiti dripped on brick walls, the stench of wet garbage clung to the air, and shadowed figures lurked in alley mouths. That's when he heard it, footsteps quickening behind him. Patterns began to repeat. First, the echo of steps. Then, the sudden stillness when he stopped. Then again, the echo, faster, closer. His instincts screamed, but pride kept him moving. He turned a corner. That's when the shadows moved. 3 men closed in, faces hidden under hoods, knives catching brief glints of light. "Nice watch," one hissed. "Hand it over." Ethan's pulse thundered. He'd dealt with boardroom sharks, but this was different. This was survival. He swung at one man, but another slammed him into a brick wall. A fist to the jaw sent his head spinning, and the cold bite of steel pressed against his neck. That's when she appeared. Zara Williams, hair plastered to her face, jacket 2 sizes too big, sneakers with holes, stepped out from the rain and into the danger. She should have walked away. Nobody would have blamed her. She was homeless, barely surviving herself. But there was a fierceness in her eyes that made her step between Ethan and the knife. "Back off," she said, voice steady. "Police are on the way." They laughed, circling her. One shoved her hard, but she didn't fall. Instead, she pulled a rusty metal pipe from her backpack, the same way she'd probably defended herself 100 times before on the streets. A fight broke out in chaotic flashes, the clang of metal, the thud of fists, Ethan struggling to get to his feet. In the end, the attackers fled, cursing into the night, their footsteps vanishing into the storm. Zara dropped the pipe and bent over, hands on her knees, gasping for breath. She looked at him, her eyes sharp, assessing. "You're bleeding," she said. Ethan, shivering in the cold rain, realized something strange. This girl with nothing had just risked everything for him. And for the first time in years, someone's actions weren't tied to his money. That was the first night Ethan Cole's carefully built world began to crack. The rain had slowed to a cold drizzle by the time Ethan tried to thank her. He reached for his wallet, a reflex, a habit. But Zara's eyes narrowed like she'd seen this scene play out too many times. "I don't want your money," she said flatly. He froze. No one ever refused him. Not investors. Not employees. Not even strangers on the street. The pattern was always the same: he offered, they accepted, they smiled. But Zara broke the pattern, leaving a gap that unsettled him. She turned to walk away, her soaked jacket clinging to her frame. Ethan, still dizzy from the fight, stumbled after her. "At least let me call you a cab," he said. She laughed, not kindly. "You think cab drivers pick up people like me?" Her words cut sharper than the mugger's knife. She walked faster, weaving through narrow backstreets with the ease of someone who knew every crack in the pavement. He followed, his $3,000 shoes splashing in puddles, his tailored suit ruined by grime. The contrast was absurd, Billionaire chasing a girl who had nothing but a rusted pipe and stubborn pride. Finally, she stopped under a flickering street lamp beside a row of cardboard shelters wedged against a wall. A few other homeless figures stirred under blankets, their eyes briefly lifting to assess the stranger in the expensive suit. "This is me," she said simply, gesturing to the damp cardboard sheet she called home. Ethan didn't know what to say. Every instinct told him to fix this, to call his driver, to write a check. But the way she stood there, chin high despite the rain dripping from her hair, told him she wasn't asking for pity. "You could have died back there," he said. "So could you," she replied, crouching to dig something out of her backpack. She pulled out a crumpled pack of crackers and offered it to him. "You look worse than me right now." The absurdity made him laugh, a real laugh, not the polite chuckles he gave at corporate galas. He sat on the curb beside her, the billionaire and the homeless girl, sharing stale crackers under a broken street lamp. That's when the second pattern revealed itself. In her world, giving wasn't about wealth. It was about sharing what little you had, even when it meant having less for yourself. They talked until the city quieted. She told him her name. That she'd been on the streets for 2 years since her foster care placement ended. That she'd seen things that made her wary of everyone, especially men in suits. When his driver finally found him, Ethan stood reluctantly. "Zara," he said, testing the name on his tongue. "Let me see you again." She shook her head, already curling up under her cardboard shelter. "You don't belong here. And I don't belong there." But as he was driven away, Ethan knew the pattern of his life had been broken forever. 2 weeks passed. Ethan tried to focus on business, but Zara's face kept slipping into his thoughts, the way her eyes had dared him to see beyond his money. He told himself it was just gratitude. That he owed her. But deep down, he knew it was more dangerous than that. Then one morning, his assistant burst into his office with a tablet. "You need to see this." The headline burned across the screen. Billionaire Ethan Cole's late-night alley incident, mysterious homeless girl the real hero. Beneath it was a grainy cell phone video. Shaky, rain-drenched, but unmistakable. Zara's silhouette stepping between him and the knife. Her voice, steady as she told them to back off. The clip had gone viral. Social media split into factions. Some hailed her as a hero. Others sneered, accusing her of staging it for fame or angling for a payout. The most toxic comments dripped with contempt. If she's that brave, why is she still homeless? The pattern was clear, the internet loved to build someone up, only to tear them down. And Zara was about to be crushed in the middle. Ethan's phone buzzed. Unknown number. He answered. "Mr. Cole." The voice was low, cautious. "It's Zara." He straightened. "How did you get my number?" "You're not hard to find," she said. I need a favor. Just this once." She was calling from a payphone. He could hear sirens in the background, voices shouting. She told him a man she knew from the streets, an older vet who'd looked out for her, had been arrested for a crime she swore he didn't commit. The police weren't listening. She thought maybe Ethan's name could get them to at least hear her out. He didn't hesitate. "Text me where you are. I'm coming." Minutes later, his black SUV pulled up beside her. She looked the same as before, hair tangled, clothes worn thin, but her eyes held a new wariness, like she'd already regretted calling him. Inside the precinct, Ethan's presence shifted the air. Cops who wouldn't give Zara a second glance now listened. The vet was released pending investigation, but as they walked out, she wouldn't look at him. "You hate asking for help," he said quietly. "I hate owing people," she corrected. Back outside, reporters swarmed, flashing cameras and shouting questions. Ethan, is this your girlfriend? Zara, are you moving in with the billionaire? Are you two dating? The words hit like sparks in a gas leak. Zara froze, eyes darting. Ethan reached for her hand without thinking. And cameras caught it. The next day, gossip columns exploded. Billionaire. Homeless girl. Alley fight. Hand-holding. The internet turned the story into a spectacle, dissecting every glance, every move. Zara disappeared that night. No calls. No messages. No trace. Ethan didn't realize how much space Zara had taken up in his mind until she vanished. Days turned into a week, and he found himself scanning every street corner, every alley, every cluster of tents in the homeless districts. The pattern repeated: hope, disappointment, anger at himself for caring so much, then back to hope again. Finally, one rainy evening, he spotted her. She was leaning against a graffiti-stained wall outside a soup kitchen, her hood pulled low. A duffel bag rested at her feet. Zara, he called. She stiffened, then turned, her face unreadable. You shouldn't be here. He walked up anyway, ignoring the curious stares from the line of people waiting for food. You disappeared. I had to, she said, folding her arms. The cameras, the reporters, that's not my world. You think you're helping, but you're just dragging me into yours. And your world chews people like me up. Her words stung because they were true. He'd seen it happen. The way wealth turned people into characters in someone else's story, stripped of control. I'm not trying to make you a story, he said. I'm trying to thank you. To be in your life. She laughed sharply, but there was no joy in it. In my life? You have no idea what that means. My life is sleeping with one eye open. It's watching friends vanish because the streets got to them. It's knowing no one's coming to save you. That's my normal. And you're too clean for that. Ethan took a step closer. The rain was coming down harder now, blurring the neon signs behind them. Maybe I'm not trying to save you. Maybe I just want to know you. Her eyes softened for just a moment, a flicker, a crack in the wall, before she pulled the hood lower. Knowing me comes with baggage. And I don't mean emotional baggage. I mean the kind that gets people hurt. She reached for her duffel. That's when Ethan noticed the bruise along her jaw. Who did that? He demanded. Zara hesitated, then shook her head. Not your fight. But he was already putting the pieces together. A man standing across the street, watching too closely. The way Zara shifted, subtly placing herself between Ethan and the line of sight. The pattern changed again. This wasn't just about a girl surviving the streets. This was about someone actively hunting her. Zara, he said, his voice low, urgent. You need to come with me. Tonight. She slung the duffel over her shoulder. You don't get it. If I leave with you, it won't just be me they come after. You're a target now too. Then she walked away, disappearing into the rain, leaving Ethan with the chilling realization that whatever danger she was in, had just become his problem too. Ethan didn't sleep that night. Zara's words kept looping in his mind, you're a target now too. By morning, his security team had traced the man who'd been watching them. The name meant nothing to Ethan, but the file told the story. Small-time enforcer, multiple assaults, suspected ties to human trafficking. And one glaring fact, he'd been seen with Zara's former foster brother, a man with a long record for violence. The pattern was suddenly clear, Zara wasn't just running from poverty. She was running from someone who believed he owned her. That afternoon, Ethan's phone rang again. No number. He answered. You have something that belongs to me, a gravelly voice said. The girl. Bring her to Pier 19 tonight, and maybe you walk away. Ethan didn't ask how they got his number. He only asked, what if I don't? A pause. Then you get to watch her die. He could have called the police. He could have sent security. But he knew if he brought anyone else into this, they might disappear before the law could act. So he did the one thing no billionaire ever did, he went alone. The pier was empty except for the creak of mooring lines and the hum of the city far behind. The fog was thick, swallowing the edges of the water. Zara was there, hands tied, a bruise blooming on her cheek, eyes blazing even now. "You idiot," she hissed as he stepped closer. "You weren't supposed to come. And let them take you," he said. "Not a chance." From the shadows, two men emerged. The leader smirked, twirling a knife. "How romantic. Shame it ends here." Ethan's pulse pounded. But then the pattern repeated, the sound of footsteps approaching fast. This time, not an ambush. From the fog, two of Ethan's most trusted bodyguards burst forward, men he hadn't called, but who'd been tracking him since he left his building. The fight was chaos, fists, shouts, the crack of a pipe against bone. Zara, still tied, shouted at him. "Behind you." He turned in time to catch the leader's arm mid-swing, wrestling the knife away. The man lunged, but Ethan slammed him against a piling, the impact echoing over the water. When it was over, the attackers were on the ground, groaning, and the distant wail of sirens cut through the fog. Zara stood there, breathing hard, wrists raw from the ropes. He untied her slowly, their eyes locked. "You could have died," she said. "So could you," he replied. The sirens grew louder, but for that moment, there was only them, soaked, bruised, and alive. Zara looked down, as if searching for words. "I don't do fairy tales," she murmured. "Good," Ethan said. "Because I'm not offering one. I just want a life. With you in it." The pattern broke one last time. She didn't walk away.